Okay, Shematot Kulam, Rabotai. We have now the zechut to start Tzurba Rabbanim volume 19, the Aaron family volume, and we're in the big one, right? I think from all the melachot, the two big ones are Bishul and Borer. So we're in the middle of Borer, and last week we were really defining the way of permissively doing borer on Shabbat, which was three things, right? Which was taking the ochel from the food from the unwanted, right? And we saw that's from two foods. If you want one versus the other, right? We also saw it has to be biyad with the hands. And we saw from Chacham Ovadia that flatware, cutlery, right, that you use, such as forks, knives, and spoons, are not considered an instrument, but rather that's part of your hand. It's an extension of your hand. And then we saw that it has to be miyad. It has to be used immediately. And Chacham Ovadia gave you a half hour to an hour before the meal as being miyad for the meal. And Ashkenazim had more kulos when it came to miyad versus the Sephardim. So today, now coming with that, and then we were saying what makes it. We were talking about last week. A lot of questions was: is it a mixture? Is it not a mixture? Is it a taruvot? Is it not a mixture? How do you define these things? So hopefully today we'll get some clarity. The first thing we want to deal with today is we keep talking about borer, about separating, and we seem to keep talking about it in a matter about foods. The question here is today, is borer only applicable when it comes to food? Or is borer with clothing and svarim and other items? But we say, we take the food from the unwanted. So let's take a look here in Rashi first. Rashi first tells us on Daf Ein Gimel and Shabbat, on page 23 in Tzurba Rabbanim, that he reminds us that even though the first 11 melachot, which is the Seder HaPas, how to make bread, that's not how it was done to create the Mishkan. Remember, according to Rashi, the melachot of Shabbat, the 39, are the stuff that they did in order to make the Mishkan. So Rashi reminds you that they did borer not just for food. They did borer to make the dyes of the colors of purple, of blue, whatever it was. They needed to take the plants, boil them up, and they had to remove the impurities and stuff like that. And part of that process was borer. So Rashi tells us right away that borer is applicable to non-foods. There's another Gemara, page 24, Masechah Shabbat, Ayin Dalet Amud Bet, which is the source. Ayin Dalet is the borer sugya in the Bavli in Shabbat. And you have here a quote, Amar Rava, Hai ma'an da'avad chavita. This person who makes a chavita, he makes a barrel, right? He's making a barrel out of clay. Hayav mishum sheva chatot. He needs to bring 7 chatot, meaning he made 7 separate sins. Now, that means he knows it's Shabbat, right? If he didn't know it's Shabbat, he did a bunch of things, so he chayav 1. But he knows it's Shabbat, he just didn't know these things were us or whatever it was. So now he has to bring for each one. Now, Rashi goes into explaining what are these 7 different things that he did. And one of them that he mentions in source number 3, first he does toichen, right? For the clay, he clumps in the earth. Then what does he do? Uvorer hatzororot hagashot mitochan. He removes the large stones from it. And what is this? This is borer. So Rashi again says there is borer by non-foods. Okay, so far we have the Rishon Rashi, who understands that there is borer by non-food items. Now, Tosafot that we saw last week was making a diuk. Oh, because the Gemara, whenever it says borer, it's always talking about food. Oh, we talk so, right? Okay. Rav Hai Gaon says that Rav Hai Gaon says the 39 melachot are not just what was done to create the Mishkan, but also what was done in the Mishkan during its process, its avoda. So maybe that way. Okay. But let's take a look at the Taz. The Taz says, Katula Tosfot, right? Tosfot wrote, Hayul Fanav Shnei Minei Ochlim, right? And he was saying that what does this mean? It would mean Venera L'Charan, the Rotzam Lomar, the Ein Shaykh Breira Ela B'midei de Ochal. Right? The Gemara's classic example is the person has two foods in front of him. Right? You would think that means it only happens when there's food. Only food. Of Bashard Varm, Gan Devar Kalim Mitoch Kalim, Ein Shaykh was a Isra. It makes sense to say there is no Isra because every time the Gemara mentions Boyer, the Farish, it talks about food. Shnei Meni Oichlim. Every time it's brought about food. So that's what he wants to say from Tosfot. But then he says the Taz, maybe that's not the way to read Tosfot. So Amarava, we have this Amarava that we just saw. Haman the Avid Chavita, Chai Mishum Sheva Chatov, the Chashav Rashi, Bar B'Deim. The Hainu Bar Tzor the Gasot Mitochan. The Im came, Sarich Chleimer, Had the Chtavu HaTosfot, many Ochlen, Garsinim L'Rabuta, the Afilu Be'ochel Mitoch Ochel, Amrinan, the Nishar Hupsolit. See what Taz does over here? Just look at it the other way. When Tosfot says there is borer from one food to the other, Tosfot is saying that's the other extreme. Meaning you would think food to food, there's no borer, it's all food. No, even food by food there's borer, meaning even by non-foods, there's also borer. That's the way the Taz said we should read the Tosfot. It says the Mishnah Berurah, who is the later posek, right? He writes, Katbu Achronim, the Huadin, Bechol davar, shehem shnei minim, kegon kelim begadim, shaykh brera. Whenever you have two things, whether it's clothing, whether it's vessels, you have brera. V'akein tzarich liberor zeh hamin sherotze litol achshav, v'hasha yisharu al makomam below lehefoch. That you have to always think about borer by everything, not just food, and you have to use the yad, the biyad, miyad, and the ochel b'toch all the time. Even for begadim, and even for kalim, and even for svarim, so to speak. Okay, that's the Mishnah Berurah brings down. So let's now take a look in the next section because he's going to bring this in. So this is the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan is asking your question, which is really, if you think about what you're saying is it a mixture? Is it a mixture or is it by itself? Right? Big stuff. Can you really say, if I put all these chairs mixed up, right? Can you really tell me that all these chairs are a mixture? Or are they big enough to be their own entity that it can never be a taruvos? In order to be a taruvos, it has to be mixed up, that you can't really get to it. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the let's take a look. Says the Aruch HaShulchan in source Chet. And he says, so get that, the big question. Now that you're telling me borer applies to food, borer applies to clothing, borer applies to everything, how can we do anything? How do you do anything? The forks and knives and spoons are mixed up. How are you going to take them out? Clothing are hanging on the wall. You need 2 or 3. How are you going to take them? Everything is borer issue. Your whole Shabbat, every step you make is going to be borer. If you're saying everything borer applies to. So he says on the next page, on page 26, if you leave a lot of svarim, and the whole svarim mixed up now, so everything there is now a borer issue. How are you going to take a sefer? I want to put it away now. Finish learning. So how do I put it away? Okay. So here he gives 2 possible ways. Okay. Maybe you can give an answer to this in 2 ways, because otherwise, every step you make in Shabbat is another borer issue. He says. So ha'echad, the bedavar hanikar harbe le'en haroeh lo shaykh lomar bezeh brera she'en ze brera el netila ba'alma b'chol elu hadvarim shachshavnu b'hem nir'im le'en kimo begadim kelim svarim kimuvan. He says a very interesting thing. This is what Tion was alluding to. He says, if I open the closet, there's a bunch of clothing hanging up. There's no mixture there. It's its own coat. It's its own coat. It's its own sweater. It's its own this. It's its own that. It's not a mixture. It's nicker. You look at it and you see what you see. It's not that it's all mixed up inside there. Okay. Okay, that's silok, right? That's also going to be permissible, but that's not what he's saying at the moment. Right now, he's talking about nicker. It's easily recognizable. If it's easily recognizable, says the Aruch HaShulchan, then there's no issue of bar there. Bar means I'm taking out of a mixture. There's no mixture here. Okay, that's his first answer. And he says you can't say the same thing by fruits, right? They're small. Fruits are mixed up in last week. David was saying you have the two types of pistachios, right? Right, and they're mixed up together. We said that's an issue of bar because they're small, they're all together. You see it, but you can't take it just simply like that. You can't pull out the coat from the closet like that. It's a different thing. That's going to be an issue of bar, he said. The second answer he gives in source number 7, he says, you know what? The truth is, still, even if it's nicker, it's bar, right? But you can use the biad, miyad, and the ochel mitoch b'salat. The v'kol advarim shanu tzrichim ke'et l'vosh habagadim v'lishtamish b'hakelim v'lilmod b'hasvarim heavy kishat achila v'lo yishayich b'zeh b'reira. Right? If I need it at that time, that's okay. Then it's not b'reira. So I need this keli. I need this. I need that. I can take it at the time. Okay? Uvada the verse svarim zemizeh kedei lahamidan al mekoman or b'gadim zemizeh kedei l'tlotan v'chem b'kelim ein heter l'tam zeh. Right? But if you want to put it away now, you finish learning, you can't put it away according to the second reason. According to the second reasoning, it has to be, I have to need it miyad. I need it right away. I don't need it now right away. Okay? But according to the first reasoning, which is saying there is no borer issues by something that's big, then it's not a problem. So the Aruch HaShulchan is giving us 2 ways of how to look at big items. Right. Now, Shmirat Shabbat Hilchatav, Rabbi Newworth, and he says, and he's going to go with the second shita of the Aruch HaShulchan, and he says, Harotzeh lohotzi eze sefer meben esfarim acherim, im ha-sefer lo nikar mimchutz ezehu. If you can't tell which sefer it is from outside, you cannot take it out unless you're about to look in it. Okay? If the svarim are mixed up, and the svarim you're not able to tell what's what, so it's a bishu of bar. You only can take it out if you're going to learn from it. If you want to take it out before, so you can do like Rabbi Sion said last week, you can take it out and read a little bit now, and then you can leave it out for later, right? But he says, but if you can see that what the sefer is, right? And there's a name on it, and it's very clear. Because now it's so nicker that you can take it out. That's not a bar issue. So the New Earth is saying that sometimes svarim altogether is an issue of bar, and sometimes it's not. In fact, there are poskim who say it depends how the sefer is. Some want to say they have it in the footnote note 6. If it's on a bookshelf like this, it's not boreh. I see the sefer. I know what sefer it is. It's saying it's going to be an issue of boreh if it's piled up. Okay. When it's inside. And it's not just by the names. Here they're saying on a bookshelf, you know where it is. It's all placed nicely. You can take it. It's not issue of bar. But when you're piling up svarim, and now it gets all mixed up. Now it's going to be issue of bar. Some want to say that. Okay. So the Ashkenazim make this chilik between mixed up svarim, separate svarim, a lot of svarim that have their names clear. It depends on the case. Okay. Let's take a look at the Yebiyah Omer. Yebiyah Omer, Child Shuvah Yebiyah Omer, in source number 9. Rav says that what? Sheyesh lahakol. Okay, you can be lenient. How far? Lahate lebros zakenim kapot umazlagot v'letinam b'makom. Amateim lehem l'tzarich suda shalach mekan. You know what? These big things, they're nicker. They're recognizable. There is no issue of bar. If you just washed a bunch of spoons, forks, and everything's mixed up, no problemo to take them and put them back in their appropriate places, says Chacham Ovadia. Why? Because they're so recognizable, they're not a mixture. It's not borer. Okay, so he's going with the first daya of the Aruch HaShulchan, that if something is very recognizable, there is no issue of borer there. Says similarly, saying mutter l'shamish libro hasfarim shel bet knesset chumushim v'sidurim chayotzehem relate them kol seferim kamo harayilai. You can go and put back every sefer back. There's no issue of borer over there. There is no issue of borer. Before we move on, I just want to take a look at the Al Joseph for a second outside. And he says over here, halacha.
Apples and pears. Take out the pears
We're going to get into that. 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 You might. It will depend how many pears and apples are in the thing. If it's 2-2, everyone's going to say there's no issue there. Small the bowl is, how big the bowl is, how many pieces are there. We're going to get into that. The Piskei Teshuvah is going to say this in a second. Wait for the Piskei Teshuvah. 1 second. Let me just bring what I wanted to bring here. So, halacha 74. All right, Yaakov Yosef writes based on this Yabia Omer, it's permissible to take a jumble of spoons, forks, knives, and separate them to place each piece in its proper place for a meal later that day. This is not a mixture of ochel and pisolet. Each piece is nicker. It's equally desired for later, and each one is undesired at this moment. There is no bor here. Some poskim ruled that the restriction of bor apply only to things that grow from the ground. Still, other poskim ruled when each item is recognizable. This is what we're saying. Onto itself, it's not considered a mixture regarding the restrictions of the malacha of borer. Okay? It throws out the concept by borer by stuff that are nicker, stuff that are recognizable. Big things. But that's pistachios are not big. That's exactly it. Pistachios are not big. When they're in a mixture, they're mixed up. They're really mixed up. You're going to have to go in and try to get one. It's hard. Okay? Here, this case is, what do you mean mixed up? This is a sipper here. This is a sipper here. But I know what I have. It's not I'm getting mixed up what I'm taking. So there's no bar, it says Chamabadia, which is the first day of the Aruch HaShulchan. Okay. Fine. Moving on. Okay, so the Tzitz Eliezer. Tzitz Eliezer was in a shul, or they was told him that they were in a shul, and after the davening, after the Kriyat Torah, they went searching for a sefer of Navi. And while they were searching for Navi, they were taking out one sefer, putting the other sefer out of the way, and they were taking out what they didn't need to find the one that they did need. Okay? And the Rav of that shul didn't like it. And he told the Gabayim, this is an issue of borer. Make sure you have the sefer of the Navi, the Haftarah, ready beforehand, so you don't have to take out all these other spark. So the Tzitz Eliezer, he says, first of all, the source of this halacha, he says, if you go through we're on source number 10, the third paragraph. We don't find this in Chazal that borer is by non-food items. Okay? It's not in the Gemara Beferish, right? It's Rashi's understanding in the Gemara. The Rambam doesn't bring that down. Okay? The Torah doesn't bring it down. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring it down. Okay? All these, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, everyone just says it's by food. Okay? And something that's actually mixed up. The rak mibet medrasho shel Rabbeinu Hataz. But it's rather, it comes from the Taz. Okay, Rashi's understanding, the Taz says that's the way to look at Tosfos. It all comes from the Taz, he says. So first thing Tzitz says, I don't know why this rabbi is going all wild, because first of all, this whole thing is based on one Taz. All right, when Rashi, the Taz is based on that Rashi. That's it. Further, he writes, and when the Taz said there's bar by Kalim, the Taz didn't explain which Kalim. If they're small Kalim, big Kalim, large Kalim, he doesn't explain, right? So maybe even the Taz would agree that a sefer, the Sfarim, are not an issue of bar. And he says the Aruch HaShulchan does discuss this. And the Aruch HaShulchan said if it's nicker, there is no bar. Okay? And furthermore, what Rabbi Shekin wanted to say before, this is also known as silok, which means I'm not trying to do borer here. I'm just trying to get to the right book. I'm removing things to get where I want to go. Okay? So that's another issue that shouldn't be a problem. So therefore, the Tzitz Eliezer said there's no problem to go look for the Sefer and removing other Sfarim. This is not an issue of Borer for all these reasons.
They don't freezer or something in the back and I'm moving food.
Yeah, okay. We're going to get into the fridge. We're going to get into the fridge. We're going to get into the fridge. Right. Take a look at page 33 on source 18. You'll see he talks about the refrigerator. Mekarer, Ashel Gabe, he brings things. We'll get into that. Okay. Now
No.
you can jump to it and look at it, but we're going to continue. Okay. Okay. Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. Again, this is an Ashkenazic posek, and he writes, no, if you have cutlery, you have forks, spoons, and stuff like that, you have to be worried about borer. And you cannot just pick them all up and put them away. But there is an etzah, he says. Okay, you wash them, right? They're all clean. You want to put them away. You cannot just take them and put them away and sort them out. But he gives you an etzah. What's the etzah? Mutter lekacha mitoch armat hasakum hamaorev min habal yado. Right? Kli acher kli, the lo leseder. Just pick it up from the pile. Wipe one down, and then put it in. Pick up the next one, wipe it down, put it in. Pick up the next one, wipe it down, put it in. I'm not selecting forks. I'm not selecting spoons. I'm not selecting knives. I'm just wiping them and putting them away. So then there's no issue of borer. Okay? That's what the Shabbat Kechata says for Ashkenazim, who say that even in this case, even though they're so big and according to the Nicker, still there's a way to go around it. Okay. And this would now be the case that Rabbi Sheket brought before. What about, says Mishnah Berurah on source 12, it is possible that several clothes are hanging on the wall, and one is searching for the item of clothing that he wants to wear now, right? And in order to do so, he's first to remove all the rest of the clothes. This is not borer. This is just removing. For example, sometimes you go to a simcha. Let's say it's Shabbat, and it is Brit Yitzchak, and you go to someone's house. So everyone comes in the winter with their coats, and they pile up all the coats. Now you want to leave. You have a whole pile of coats. So you got to go through all the coats to get your coats. Take the newest one. Oh, she told me. Okay, so he goes through all the coats, and he's removing all the coats. Oh, bar? No, it's not bar. Because I'm not selecting. I'm just removing to get to mine what I'm looking for. Okay?
Big.
No.
No?
Because I'm getting to it. I'm not selecting the bad from the good. I'm just reaching what I want to get to. Okay?
Yeah, but you're removing.
Yeah.
If I had a basket of
and here I'm not taking out. I'm just pushing aside. I'm moving to the side to get what I want to.
if I have a basket, if you have the pistachios over here in the same plate,
Yeah.
and I'm moving the pistachios to get to the pistachio that I like.
How are you removing it? How are you?
Moving
Are you just moving it in the thing?
Moving it.
You're moving it in the bowl?
I'm picking it up. I pick it
No,
up.
that's selecting.
That's the same
That
thing.
no, it's not. It's not the same thing.
I'm selecting the coat also out of the my coat.
There, you're removing to get what you want to
So
get.
you gotta stay pushing, not
Right.
picking up and lifting and putting aside.
How are you removing it? If you have a pile, you have to pick it up and you move things aside to get to where you need to get.
If you're picking it up, it's the same as the pistachios when you.
No. I'm just picking up to get to where I need to get. Hey, it says that several clothes are hanging. He's searching for the clothing that he wants now. In order to, so he's forced to first remove all the rest of the clothes. This is not classified as borer. Okay. Similarly, look at your rights. If many types of food are left in a bowl, one on top of the other, and the type that one wants to eat is situated underneath, removing those that are placed above to reach the type underneath and take it is not classified as borer.
Therefore, you can take the pistachio and move it aside.
To the side, yes.
Yeah, so I'm picking it up, putting
No,
it aside.
you're selecting out and taking it. That's borer.
Let's say
Just removing it.
pistachios right here.
So the example they give is as follows. Person has a soup bowl, right? And he wants to get chicken, or he wants to get a big piece of potato. So he can go into the soup bowl, move everything to the side, and take out the item that he wants. That's not a problem. Okay? That's just removing things to the side. Okay? Fine.
How did you get the peanuts pistachios? You want the peanuts. You're just moving that, you're not taking them.
Right.
Going like this.
Right.
On the plate, on the plate.
Right.
on the
Same
plate.
thing with the clothes.
Yeah.
Same thing with the coat.
Yeah.
Back up. Don't lift them and put them aside.
Just to get to your
Okay,
coat.
I'm just saying.
By coats also, how where are you gonna move it to? There's no space, so you have to move it somehow. You're not, and you're not even moving it and putting it down somewhere. You're moving it, and you're holding, looking this, looking that one, right? You're not, you're doing it in a way that you're getting to what you want. Okay. Similarly, this would also be, for example, similarly when you have chicken and you have skin on top of it, right? You don't want to eat the skin, right? So you're just removing the skin to get to the food that you want to eat, which would be part of the derech achila, okay, and not considered boreh. All right, we'll get into these things more. He says,
Last
similarly,
question.
yes.
If somebody's in a dark room is trying to pick out a shirt, but it's dark, but he wants to see if it's that the one. It's not that one, then you still take another one to see if that's the shirt he wants.
So his shirts
It's
are
okay?
hanging.
Yeah, in the closet, but
That's
there's no light
So
on there. It's dark.
there's no boreh there. Every shirt
No.
is already considered its own garment and its own knicker, so there's no problem taking it out, looking, and putting it back.
It's not mixed like a laundry basket.
Right. It's not mixed like a laundry basket. That's a different story when it comes to mixed laundry basket. When it's hanging up, you can take it out, look at it, put it back, not a problem. Okay. Now, he says the same is true with the Rolodex, which is a card index. Okay, in some of the shuls, they have cards, a person buys an aliyah, they put it inside. So he wants to get to that card, and he wants to get to that person's name. All right. Pirchas Abramov is easy to get to. It's in the beginning. When you get to Moshe Shimon, you got to get to S. So you got to go only in the back. So he's removing all the front cards to get to the back card. Well, guess what? That's not a problem because I'm not doing borrow, selecting the ones I don't want. I'm just removing it to get to the card that I do want to get to. Yeah. If you take what you want from what you don't want, then it's not a borrow. We're going to get into the laundry basket. If it's a mixture, you cannot, if you just move it to get to it, that's one thing. To take it out, now it's a problem. Because it's not recognizable. Okay. Now, the Penina Halacha tells us there's another thing you have to pay attention to. We that hold that there is borer by non-food items, okay? Chamavadi also holds, I guess, even though Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that, but he holds like that. So this is another item you have to pay attention to, which is children's games. They play games, toys, okay? They play games on Shabbat, they play games, okay? And then it gets all mixed up. And now you want to put it away. You can't do that. You can't start removing. You're not using it. It's not miyad. Not to use it. You're just putting it away. Okay. Now to set up a game that you can do, right? Because now it's miyad, right? If it's all mixed up and I want to play a game, I can remove the stuff that I need, right? Miyad, the ochel we talk about, I can do. But if it is to put it away, that might be an issue. So you have to
Clean it up.
clean it up.
והם עכשיו שחקו על הקוקו בסלון.
What?
משחק עם הכל. עכשיו שאתה עושים את זה אוהד.
לא,
It's boring.
הכל תעבירו. לא, תסדרו את הכל מסודר.
לילדים אין בעיה, שאלה עליך.
So
אני מבין, אבל
there's a few things you can do. One of the things you can do is you remember that there's only an issue of borer if you have a mixture. Okay? Means is if you take the toys and you throw them all over the floor. So now there's no more mixture because everything is all separated everywhere. Then you can go away and put it away. Okay? You make a bigger mess to first put it away. Because the whole issue is if it's a mixture, there's no towel, if everything is all spread out, there's no mixture anymore. You can put everything away. Okay? So sometimes you have to make a bigger mess to put it away. All right. Fine.
Example, what's the toys that you were playing with?
Black chest pieces. All mixed up. Okay, so once put the whites on this
So you
side
put-
and the blacks on this side.
Here's the box that it has separately white.
I was understanding it as follows. Like I have a Connect 4 game and I have a checkers game and a chess games and the kids are playing everything. By the time they finish, all the pieces are mixed up within each other. Okay? So you cannot go and select and put them away. It's not miyad. You're not using them right now. If you want to play another game of Connect 4 and checkers and chess, you can go ahead and do it because you're doing it right now. Right? But if you're not using it right now, you can't do that. So one of the ways to get away from a borer issue is to not have a mixture. How do you not have a mixture? Spread everything out, right? Throw it all out, and now everything is separated. There's no mixture. Now you can go ahead and put everything away,
Or put it onto one bowl, then,
and then take care of it later.
or next
Yeah.
time, just play with it
Yeah,
again.
that's
Whatever
fine.
it is.
No problem. All right. Now, let's get into the next topic over here, which is, I think, the real question of borer, that's the Piskei Teshuvot we'll say on the next page, is how do you define a taruvot, a mixture for borer? Okay? Like, how do you do that? What's considered a mixture? 1 minute you say it's a mixture. Next minute you say it's not a mixture. It is selecting. It's not selecting. So what is it? So, by the way, there's no good answer. Okay? There's no real good answer over here. A lot of it depends on what you see and how you view things. Says the Tzurba Tadeshin. Tzurba Tadeshin says
Page 31.
that it's very hard. It's counterintuitive, right? Neged Sfirat Halev. It goes against the logic. The Shnei Minim Shnikarim Hefradatam, right? Chatichot Gidolot, Shomchim Yachad, the Hebrera Shaychavu. It's very hard to say that two large things that are mixed together is considered an issue of borer, right? It's big, it's large, right? Only if they're mixed and not recognizable. But he says, I don't really have proof for this, therefore don't rule in me. Okay? He says, doesn't make logic to say big things mixed are a mixture, but I don't have proof for this, and therefore don't rule in me. The Ramah says, and we saw this Ramah last week already, he said, Vishnei, meaning dogim, the two types of fish, right? And to sort them, you're not allowed to do that, right? You have to do it with the biyad, miyad, och mitoch solid. Even though they're large, so you see the Ramah, he doesn't hold that it's nikeret if it's recognizable that you can do. But no, he says still an issue of borer over there. The Piskei Teshuvot, and this is a very, very telling Piskei Teshuvot on page 32. He writes in the second paragraph. In truth, one of the most significant difficulties with the halachot of borer is the exact who are gather hamiduyak lematzav shel taruvot, right? This is exact definition of what a mixture is for taruvot, and it's not explained clearly by the poskim. So it's not just you, not just me. It's not explained clearly by the poskim. What's the actual taruvot for borer? In essence, the matter could only be decided b'ri'at ha'ayin uvedat b'nei adam, what you see and how people view it. Okay. How people see it, how people view it, whether it's considered a mixture or not. And it's double hard. It's not everybody's going to say this is a mixture. It's not a mixture. Mixture, not a mixture. So that's what Piskei Teshuvot says. Borer, the hardest part of borer is to know what is a mixture, and there's no clear definition for it. And but the Vatoli, the Godla Pratim of Kamois, Haturuais, Vatkama, Him Shonim Zemizeh, depends on the size, the mixture, how different they're from one another, right? And he gives an example. Look at his example over here. Right, we're in the third paragraph on page 32. An apple and an orange next to each other in a bowl is not a mixture. I have one apple, I have one orange. There's what there? No. One apple, one orange. Okay? And he says the same will apply. I have two apples and two oranges. There's no borer. There's no taruvot there. It's two apples, two oranges. But when many apples and oranges are mixed together, now I got borer, right? And how much is many? It doesn't even say, right? Many. I have a whole bowl full of things. Now I have taruvot. Now I have an issue of borer. But I have two. Maybe if I have 3 and 3, it's not an issue of borer. Like when does the borer happen? So he says it can change based on what number of what you have. But he says the words that Trumat Hadeshin that he said that even though he thinks it's not borer, still you shouldn't be lahakil because he's safek chiyuv hatatu. Again, it's safek deoraita, and it's an issue. So therefore, don't be so fast to say kula. Oh, this is not a mixture. This is not a mixture. You're probably right, but you can't do that. Can't be so mako. So now he writes, and here's the thing that's definitely not a question. Okay, and this is his gedder over here. V'zeh bar mal kol safek he kol sheyesh eza tircha afilu kala shel chipush b'toch hataruvot kedei l'nsotam amokesh. Chipush, right? The searching. Anything, a little difficulty in removing it. So then, vada yesh bo din bora. Okay, so you understand the Piskei Teshuvot together for bora is that if there's some difficulty to getting what you want, that is when bora is applicable, right? Right? There's some effort to get it. Therefore, again, I open the closet, I see all the clothes hanging. There's no difficulty to get it. I pull it up and I pull it down. Put it up, put it down. If I want to get to the pistachio and I want the one that I want in the mix, I got to play with it to get it, right? There's the effort. There is an issue of bor. Okay? And then you would need the ochel mitach b'solid. You would need the biyad. You would need the miyad. And then you would be okay. So now comes the question that we should ask before. What about my freezer? What about my refrigerator? I have stuff inside. And there are money stuff inside my refrigerator and my freezer. Is it an issue of bor or not? So he depends. He says depends on what's inside your refrigerator. For example, says the Orchot Shabbat. If I have pots and other utensils next to each other, right? If I have a bunch of 9x13 pans, right? Today people like to make everything in 9x13 pans. They put it in the fridge like that, right? Then there's no prohibition in separating them. They're all nicker. They're all big. They're all big stuff. There's no problem. But he says if I have a jumble of cheeses, of yogurts, of lebanon, and stuff like that, smaller pieces that are all together in there. This is the Orchot Shabbat talking right now. Okay? Ashkenazim are more machmer on in this part. And then he says, bor does apply. And certainly if the foods are placed one on top of another in a pile, such as a vegetable drawer. Okay? You know, the vegetable drawer, the crisper, there you have all the fruits in there, right? And it's all a mixture in there. So there he says, borer does apply. Okay? So again, we're going with how big the size is. Is it big? Is it small? If it's small and it's all together, there might be an issue of borer there. If it's big, there's definitely no issue of borer. Here in Sefer Chayei Olamim, he writes as follows when it comes to this issue. He writes as such. Listen to this. Okay. So he's not taking only what he wants. Okay. Show the picture here. No one can see it. Come, pick it up. And come over here. You can see. So here, Rameir Chai brings me this box, and he has a bunch of things inside here, and he's asking if this is borer or not. Okay. So
long ones and round ones.
yeah, we would say, well, here is very little the long ones. So we would still say this is borer. Yeah, this would be a case of borer. They're mixed up and they're small. They're different minei oiflin. So this would be shnei minei oiflin. You would have to take what you want, right? You can't take what you don't want, right? Because that is small. Okay.
Guests are coming. You want to take only one kind. Can you?
Here, he writes over here. If one has boxes, he writes, if one has boxes or containers of food in the fridge or cupboard, it's also true. There's no mixture there. However, if the containers are not discernible from one another and they're piled on top of each other, then bor can apply. Hear what he says here? There's a bunch of 9x13 pans, and I don't write on them what they are. So I don't know what they are. So now it's not recognizable what each one is. Then there is borer.
True, but it's not on top. They're one on top of the other. I don't know what's what.
Oh, so you're right on the side.
No, but even if you have ice cream in the back in the freezer, you have to move stuff to get the ice cream. The borer. No,
If
it's in the back. Now you have
no. In that case, I'm pushing aside to get what I want. That's not
You have
borer.
to take it out from the refrigerator and space.
Okay, if you have to move it out to get what you want, again, that's not borer. If I'm trying to get the ice cream, right? It's my part of my derech achila. I'm getting to my food. It's silof, right? I'm removing what I want to get. I'm removing I'm not doing borer. I'm not selecting. I don't care that I'm taking out this or that. I'm just getting to my ice cream, right? In that case, it's not borer. Okay.
Now you have Eshkol Arabim, one
Cluster.
And grapes.
Yeah, if you, there's one thing there, you don't wanna take it out in front of you to get the Eshkol Arabim, the whole thing. You have only one or two pieces that's really ugly, if you take it away. You just wanna take out these two pieces and then present everything to the table.
So what do you do? So what do you do?
In this case, you say it's a well. How are you gonna take it? This is the only grapes you have. Put
Yeah,
them
I can
all
make
on
a
your
suggestion.
counter, put them all on.
So Rabbi Tzion has a suggestion. Okay, Rabbi Tzion wants a suggestion.
Clusters come in small cluster. So you take the small cluster that happen to be with it. It's instead of being one or two, it's gonna be 10 or 5. So you take that small cluster, it's good and bad. לא, אבל זה יותר טוב מלקחת רק את הפסולת. אתה לא יכול לקחת את הפסולת, אל תוציא את זה. קיצור, הוא אומר אל תוציא. לא, אני הצעתי אחרת, אני הצעתי תוציא, במקום 2, תוציא 5. אז יהיה לך רק טוב.
You will be left with nothing.
לפעמים גדולים.
כן, ולפעמים יש קטנים. אני מדבר על הקטנים, אתה מדבר דווקא על הגדולים.
By the way, just to move back over here, he brings in the Yalkut Yosef the case about the laundry basket. And he writes that one may remove the clothing on the top of the basket in order to get to an item at the bottom of the basket. Okay? So again, this would be the case of removing to get to what I want to, similar to my freezer to get to my ice cream. I'm removing, I'm not doing borer, I'm not selecting the thing, I'm just moving things out of my way to get what I want to get. Okay, fine.
You're finding some leniency when it comes to grape.
I don't have a leniency for the grape. I don't know what to tell you.
Part of.
Maybe grapes is all, it's all one unit. They're all connected.
No, we talked about that if it's different quality, right? There's an issue of a mixture here.
One cluster, no quality.
How would you do it?
Here, an example of a Torah, what we said last time was including fresh and spoiled fruits, right? That's already a mixture. One has a grape cluster that has some spoiled and some fresh grapes. One may not pick out the spoiled grapes. Not.
If you take an apple and take out the brown parts, that's not.
No, because you're doing with the good part. You don't take
What you can do for the guest here is what you do. Hello. And Pinchas, this is what you do. Take the good ones off the cluster, put it in a bowl, and bring it out. So you don't need a cluster. You wanted grapes. Trust me, they're gonna be more thankful. They don't have to go pulling it off. They already have it in front of them. That's it. Easier to eat. Okay? So that you could do. Right? Taking the ochel, mitok misol. That you can do. Fine. Let's move on. Okay. So this one
Let's say this is no good, right? So instead, you hold the bad one, whatever, and you take this away. What did I take right now? I took the okay. That's what I heard one time.
I don't know. I didn't see that one. I didn't see that one. But it's a good question. Okay. Now we saw this topic already, but here is the Gemara that says, according to Rashi, of how you can unscramble a mixture by not having a mixture anymore. Okay? So there was a story in the Gemara. So it was a Shabbat Rabbi when he was giving the Shira, right? And came Rabbi Ami Rabasi, and he wanted to give them food. So Shadakamayu, he gave in front of them a basket of fruits, and he threw it in front of them. He took the basket of fruits, the fruits of basket, and he threw it in front of them. And they didn't know why he threw it, right? Maybe he hold, not like we hold that you're allowed to take food from the good stuff from the bad stuff. Maybe he hold even that's asur. Or he wanted to show that he had a lot of fruit, so he wanted to put a lot. You spread it out. You have to know how to spread out, how to present the food. So says Rashi, what's happening over here? ולא רצה לברוא האוכל מתוך העלים, ולתת לפני כל אחד ואחד, אלא, what did he do? He threw it down, שטחם, והם נוטלים ואוכלים, and the food separated on its own. נפש האוכל מאליו. It's separated by its own. So if you unscramble a mixture, you unmix a mixture, that is mutar on Shabbat. And says the Yigot Moshe, when he was asked about the question of spoons and forks, right? Person has spoons and forks, they're already dry and everything, and now he wants to separate them. Can't, according to Ashkenazim, because they say it still has borer there. For us, it's nicker, you can put it away, not a problem. But for them, if someone suggested to take it and throw all the cutlery onto the table, right? Now everything is no longer in a mixture. And Moshe said that was a very good suggestion, okay? Because no longer a mixture, right? So that's what we said over here. Fine. And he brings this also in this sefer over here. He writes the same exact thing. Very interesting lashon. It's possible to unmix a mixture and thereby circumventing the issue of borer. Okay, for instance, if one has a mixture of spoons and forks that are not easily differentiated between each other, right? He makes this deal here. Let's say I have spoons and forks and stuff that you can't tell that this is a spoon, that's a fork. It's not nicker. I don't know how you get that, but you have some of these modern types of spoons and forks you can't tell. He can spread it out onto the counter, and they're no longer considered mixed. This will permit one to take the desired color even long before the meal will begin. Similarly, one who has many different types of candies, okay? You have a mixture of candies, right? You may spread out the candies and then choose the one that he wants, even if it won't be immediately, okay? So if you had a mixture and then you made it no longer a mixture, you have no issue of borer. Yeah. No, it's not. That's remember, the borer is when it's mixed in, it's with one another. It's a taruvos, it's mixed up. If I have, right, let's say this is pieces, this is a mixture now, ka'ilu, right? If I take it now, is there a mixture here? No, it's separated now. It's no longer a mixture. Right. That's why I wanted to say when the Sfarim are piled on top of each other, that's a mixture. But if they all separated like this, right, they're all on the bookshelf, they're not anymore in a mixture. They're all separated.
So we're going to say that it's Davani Kav, just like the cutlery, the books, even though they're sitting one on top of the other, instead of being Kav, therefore it's not a mixture?
Depends on how you look at Sfarim. Will you make that chiluk?
Is it any smaller than the cutlery?
So that's the question. If I do have Sfarim Ketanim, would I say that it's not nicker and now it is an issue of taruvos or not? I don't know. They have some of these small tehillims. You know, they have the Baba Sali picture on the front and the small little tehillims. And they have tons. So a guy had all these different type of stuff, tehillim and the Zohar and this one and that one, all mixed up in small pieces. Now Shabbat, it's so small sparim. So they're not nicker, maybe.
So otherwise, it's really no
so
problem.
We'll go, yeah, and the shul most farm are okay, right? Go back to the Piskei Teshuvot and says it's very hard to know what is a tarubot by Shabbat or not. And if it's effort, right, to get it, then you're more likely it's a borer issue. All right. And we say stuff that are big are nicker, they're recognizable, there's no issue of borer over there. Here in the shul, all the Sfarim, there's not an issue of borer.
Okay? So what if it happens? What do you do?
If what?
If it happens, I picked out the bad food. I want the good food. Accidentally, I took out the bad one. I have it in my, let's say, the fork. What do I do?
So he asks a question. He says, if I picked out the bad from the good, then what happens? What happens? Yeah. It's Chaim Chatat. He's over.
Right,
right.
You just put it down and you take whatever you want.
Yeah, but there's a sin in that, right? Taking the bad from the good. You have to pay attention. Okay, we are going to read. We're going to have to come back to this. I want to give it justice, so we'll start it, talk a little bit about it, and then we'll pick it up next week. Okay. Oh, next week there will not. We'll make an announcement. The next week there will not be shiur because Rabbi Yosef Haimov is making chatuna. Right, his daughter's wedding is going to be Sunday night, Rabbi Yosef. Okay, everybody's invited to Elagio, right? So it's going to be Sunday night. So we're not going to have shir that Sunday night because the most of the keel is going to be there. So we'll pick up the week after. Okay.
There's a question.
How do you remove an avocado pit? You just remove it.
And there's another
Okay.
question.
You remove an avocado pit. Well, we didn't get into the pits and vegetables yet. We'll get there eventually, but you can just pull it out. There's another question. We're gonna get into peeler next time as well. As far as we'll make it when it comes to peeler, but we'll take a look at that next time as well. Okay. But even Chamuvaji said it's better to use a knife if possible rather than a peeler. But we'll see that. All right. Now our issue is, and we have like a minute, but taking a solid item from a liquid. Okay. The question here is there borer by a liquid? No. So let's say, okay, say a solid piece from the soup. Okay, is there such a thing as borer or not? So the Maritats, he wants to say that when it comes to liquid, separating liquids is done by filtering. Liquids get filtered in order to separate. Just removing a piece from a liquid, that's not considered borer. That's what he wants to say. That there is no borer by just removing big solids from liquid. Because in order to do what's borer by solids, by liquid, you have to do filtering, which is like putting it through a cloth or putting it through something like that. So we have to get into that filters under the sink. Will you drink it without it? Will you drink it with it? Can you use it on Shabbat? Even all that is coming up. But I just wanted to give you that idea. So the question here is: a fly or a mosquito fell into the water or the wine, right? Can you just pull it out? So if you go with this Maharitats is what? There is no issue of borer, of pulling out a solid from a liquid, so pull it out. Now the Taz comes again. The Taz is very machmer when it comes to borer. Already saw it. The second time the Taz is coming and is being machmer. And the Taz says, no, there is borer even by liquids. Therefore, his etzah is, like many people said, take some of the liquid with the item, right? The only issue is taking the unwanted from the wanted. But if you take it together, then there's not an issue of borer. So he says to take it together. But we'll get into more to that. Is that Hashem next time? שנאמר אדוני חפש למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. בן ישמר הבא ממברך שלנו ויין בה